Hey everyone, in this video I will be breaking down 100 Bullets Volume 7. There are two story arcs in this volume. One of them is called Chill in the Oven, where we will be following Loop Hughes, who is a character we met a few volumes ago, so we will pick up with him and see his life in prison and how he survives. Very exciting stuff. The next story arc is called Instinct, where we will pick up following Minuteman Jack Daw, who is the heroin drug addict that got an attaché with his own picture in it. So we will pick up with him and see where his life is at now. So let's dive into it. 100 Bullets, Volume 7. 100 Bullets, Volume 7, Samurai. Written by Brian Azzarello, art by Eduardo Risso. 100 Bullets, Issue 43. Chill in the Oven, Part 1 of 4. In this story arc, we will be catching up with Loop Hughes. The last time we saw Loop was in issue 19, in the Hang Up on the Hang Low story arc. In that story arc, he got arrested for killing a henchwoman named Tommy Yee, and that is how he wound up in jail. When we see Loop in jail now, he just got out of solitary confinement, and he is going to be re-entering the general population. He was feuding with a rival prisoner named Nine Train. Nine Train hates Loop and wants to see him dead. Luckily for Loop though, Nine Train is currently locked up away in the infirmary. Loop is a little worried though because eventually Nine Train is going to be rejoining him in Gen Pop soon. When Loop re-enters Gen Pop, he talks to some of his friends. They joke and ask him how was his vacation. Loop jokes back, "It was fine. Didn't you get my postcard?" As Loop walks back to his cell, he sees some Nazis hanging out in front of it. Loop tells the group of them, "Damn, someone get me a broom so I can sweep all this white trash off my front porch." A few of the Nazis leave, but not the most intimidating one named Eerie. Despite Eerie being a Nazi and Loop being black, they actually seem to be kind of friendly with one another. They talk about some of the going-ons in the prison since Loop was locked away in solitary. And then Eerie, he explains how he's doing his GED, and the tutor they assigned to him is shit, so he's hoping that Loop will continue to help him with his math. Loop jokes to Eerie, "You weren't able to get that big bald dome of yours around fractions by pointing out you already be down with that shit when you cut up an ounce?" Eerie replies, "That's what I'm saying. So, you gonna help me?" Loop says he will. He'll come by his house tomorrow. Eerie and Loop fist bump, and then once Eerie is gone, a man named Cotton, that is Loop's cellmate, yells out to Loop, "I can't believe you teach that Peckerwood anything other than how to commit suicide." Loop says hi to his friend and explains, "Can't teach what I don't know." The two of them talk and catch up for a bit, and then eventually they head to the cafeteria for lunch. In the cafeteria, one of the security guards named Sergeant Dirtz confronts Loop. Dirtz is a real son of a bitch and hates Loop and wants to put him away for more time. He keeps waiting for Loop to slip up. Sergeant Dirtz picks up an apple off of Loop's tray and throws it to the ground. And then he tells Loop, "You dropped your apple, convict. Better go get it." And then Dirtz pushes Loop to the ground. Dirtz and Loop exchange a few words. Their confrontation ends when Dirtz hits Loop in the belly with his nightstick, and Loop goes down. That night, when Loop is back in his cell, he's talking to his cellmate, Cotton, and they are talking about all of Loop's problems. He's got this guy, Nine Train, that wants him dead, and he's got Sergeant Dirtz out for him too. Next day, out on the yard, they're outside, exercising, and a whole bunch of new prisoners are coming in on a bus. All the convicts go to the fence to watch everyone come in. One of the prisoners is a scrawny-looking white guy. He looks scared to death. One of the prisoners yells out, "Yo, Bob!" And the prisoner's name, it just happened to be Bob. Bob answers, How do you know my name?" The convict yells back, "'Cause that's what you're here for, Bob. Bending over backwards." And then a whole group of the convicts start breaking out into laughter. Not Bob, though. Bob is still scared. Loop and the Nazi Eerie are down by the gate, and they are watching the next group of prisoners come out. Erie explains that this next guy coming, rumor is he's a cop killer. So who is this mystery prisoner cop killer? Well, it is in fact Lono. Lono gets off the prison bus and starts walking towards the gates. Last we saw Lono was in issue 40, Night of the Payday. In that issue, Shepard framed Lono for robbing a bank. Shepard did this as a favor to Graves. Graves wanted Lono punished because Lono was the one that killed the other Minuteman, Milo Garrett. Now in issue 40, Lono got shot down in a hail of gunfire from a whole bunch of police officers. We could have maybe assumed he was dead, but he did in fact survive. And now he is here in this prison with Loop. 100 Bullets, issue 44. Chill in the Oven, part 2 of 4. Lono is in his prison cell with his 19-year-old cellmate named Arvis. Arvis, talking to Lono, says, "Yo, word on the wire is you're a frickin' cop killer. I'm envious, dog, know what I'm saying?" Lono replies, "No." Arvis continues, "Yo, that's the stuff I dream about, wasting 5-0, just choking them out. I heard you robbed a bank too." Lono says, "I was framed." Arvis to this replies, "Yeah, I hear that. Well, one thing I learned in here, you gotta make the best out of a bad situation. Anything you need, I'm down with the people in here that can get it for you. Drugs, contraband, whatever." Lono replies, "How about a private cell?" Elsewhere in the prison block, Loop is talking to his cellmate, Cotton. Loop is telling Cotton all about how he knows Lono. Loop first met Lono in the Hang Up on the Hang Low story arc, which ended in issue 19. Loop explains, "The dude straight up raped this girl for hours, and then he broke my cousin's neck in just a second." Cotton tells Loop he should get some revenge, some get back. Loop responds, "You're not listening, man. This guy's like King Shit Kong and goddamn Zilla rolled up into one. He's the mother to all motherfuckers, to which I handed over all the money I had just so he wouldn't hand me my own head. When Lono looks at me, all he sees is a punk. His punk." Later on in the morning, it is time for roll call. And sure enough, Lono's cellmate, Arvis, is dead. Later on in the prison showers, Loop is talking to some of the other inmates about the death of Arvis. Loop knows that Lono did it, but everyone else is telling Loop that Arvis must have died of natural causes. There was no mark on his body. But Loop knows that Lono somehow killed him. Soon, Lono himself comes into the showers. He asks around for Erie, the Nazi guy. Erie and Lono talk. Lono asks, "I hear you're the guy that calls the shots in here, do you?" "Well, look, I need some things. I need a TV, some curtains, a radio too, and a job out in the yard all day, rain or shine. Also some food. That soybean bullshit messing up the mess. I want real meat. Also, I got no use for cigarettes but a taste for cigars. If you get 'em, I want 'em." Erie responds, "Damn, alright. That's a seriously righteous list. You drop about $1,200 into my commissary account and we on." Now that sounds reasonable to me, but that is not what Lono had in mind. Lono wanted this shit for free. Lono responds, Drop shit. I ain't got no one and nothing, except a taste for cigars." This pisses Erie off. He grabs his genitals and says, "Yeah? Well then taste this." Lono responds, "I said I wanted real meat. Look, shot caller, you can hook me up, so do it." Eventually, Erie gets pissed off and he tackles Lono. And Lono and Erie are fighting naked in these showers while the other inmates look on. Erie's Nazi pals join the fighting too, but Lono, he's such a beast of a man, he takes them all down. And then he grabs Erie and smashes his head into the shower floor. After Lono has successfully ended this fight, he goes to leave the shower, but before he heads out, he notices Loop, and he says, "Hey, nice to see you again, little Hughes. Come by my house and we'll watch some TV." Due to all of the fighting in the showers, the guards decide to do a lockdown. All the prisoners start scrambling to get rid of their drugs or hide their contraband. Some of them are just throwing their contraband out of their cell doors onto the floor below. Anything to get it out of their cell before the guards can pin it on them. The guards come in and they crack some heads. Sergeant Dirts goes into Loop's cell and asks him, "Were you just in the showers, Loop? You smell awfully clean." Loop explains that he did not mess with the Erie or his crew. Dirts continues, "Hey, you messed with 9 Train, you'll mess with anybody." Loop responds, "Fuck you." So Dirts cracks Loop in his skull. And then he warns Loop, saying, "Loop, you're dead. You know you're dead. You wouldn't talk to me like that if you weren't dead. You want to live? I can make that happen." Loop gets saved, though, as the dogs start barking near Lono's cell, signifying that he was the one responsible for the mayhem in the showers. Dirts tells Loop, "Nice. You live a few more days. Although one thing I can't stop is 9 Train getting out of the infirmary." Later that night, Dirts, along with a few other guards, go to Lono's cell. Loop is watching all the guards walk by. He comments to Cotton, "Yo, Cotton, check it. One of my problems is about to be solved." Dirts and his men head into Lono's cell and continue to viciously beat him with their batons. 100 Bullets, issue 45. Chill in the Oven, part 3 of 4. Lono is in the infirmary. He got beaten relentlessly by those guards. But he's a tough SOB, and he's still alive. The prison doctor is talking to Sergeant Dirts. The doctor comments, "Jesus, Sergeant, that man took a hell of a beating." Dirts replies, "Nah, he didn't. He just fell out of bed." The doctor responds, "Yeah, how many times?" Dirts answers, "How do I know? Maybe he's a real restless sleeper." The doctor tells Dirts, "Give me a little credit, okay? I know this guy didn't just fall out of bed. He looks like a frickin' piñata. To think I became a doctor for this." Dirts responds, "That's the problem. We don't need doctors in this zoo. We need veterinarians." Well, Lono is going to be staying in the infirmary for a while to heal. Meanwhile, Loop is out in the yard. He's playing chess against one of the older prisoners. Loop asks the old-timer, "How many games have we played?" The old-timer answers, 100. Loop questions, "And how many have I won?" The old-timer answers, "You ain't ever won." Loop to this says, "Well, maybe next time I'll get lucky." The old-timer says, "Lucky? Ain't no luck in chess, Loop. Either you got the skills and the patience to outmaneuver and anticipate your opponent, or you don't. Checkmate, 101 to none." Loop's friend Cotton joins him in the yard. Cotton tells Loop that one of 9 Train's boys came by their house earlier, and he left this as a message for Loop. Cotton reveals a half-eaten apple, and then he tells Loop that's what he says he's gonna do to you when he gets out of the infirmary. In 2 days. I mean, Loop, of all the people you could have messed with in here, why do you gotta pick him? Loop explains himself saying, "Look, I didn't know it was him when it happened." We have a flashback now. We will finally learn why this 9 Train guy hates Loop. So Loop, he was in the cafeteria sitting beside Cotton, and he was eating his food, when all of a sudden 9 Train came over and grabbed Loop's apple. Loop had no idea who was grabbing his apple at the time, but he just instinctually acted. You know, someone grabs his apple now, next time, maybe they'll grab his ass. Loop explains, "And my apple belongs to me." So without seeing exactly who it was, Loop swung his tray, and he broke 9 Train's trachea with it. Back to the present day again. Cotton says, "You broke his trachea, man. Word is now, when he breathes, it sounds like he's growling and it ain't nothing nice." Loop worried says, "Just my luck. I got to hear the train a-coming before it rolls me over." The old-timer that Loop was playing chess with tells Loop, "What'd I tell you about luck, my boy?" Loop, remembering the old man told him that in chess, there's no such thing as luck. You either got the skills and the patience to outmaneuver and anticipate your opponent, or you don't. Loop, taking that advice in, decides to be proactive and make his own luck. Loop goes down to see these two sketchy-ass prisoners that are selling shivs. And Loop, he buys one from them. Meanwhile, over in the infirmary, Lono is there with Erie as well as 9 Train. Erie is still pissed at Lono for beating him earlier. He is threatening Lono right now, but Lono is not nervous in the slightest. Eventually, 9 Train starts befriending Lono and they talk. 9 Train asks, "What you in for?" Lono answers, "Trusting in a snake." He's referring to Shepard, who double-crossed him. 9 Train explains normally he wouldn't bother talking to someone like Lono, but because Lono messed with Erie, he figures he'll make an exception for him. Lono explains that he is pissed at Erie because he thinks Erie is the one that ratted him out to the guards. Told them about how he beat him in the showers. Erie tells Lono he did not rat him out. He ain't no snitch piece of shit. Even 9 Train defends Erie, saying, "If Dirt's got a tip on you, it wouldn't come from Erie." Lono gets interrupted. One of the guards comes over and tells him that he has a visitor. Lono goes to see who his visitor is, and it is Mr. Shepard, the guy that framed him and double-crossed him and sent him to this prison in the first place. When Lono sees Shepard, he comments, "You goddamn motherfucker." Shepard responds, "Is that any way to greet an old friend, Lono?" Lono tells Shepard when he gets out of here, he's dead. Shepard responds, "I know that, and that's why you're in here." Lono explains, "Well, I'm gonna escape." Shepard to this says, "Well, you haven't yet." Lono argues, "I just got in." Shepard continues, "You've been trying to get out since Atlantic City, since the Minuteman went under." Lono ponders, and he asks, "Why wasn't I there in Atlantic City?" Shepard to this answers, "The same reason you're in here. I need you." Elsewhere, we jump over to Loop. Loop has his hidden shank with him. He talks to the guard, Sergeant Dirts. He tells him, "Yo, don't turn around, just hear me out. I'm strapped, and now you know. And way I see it, you can do your job and throw me in the hole for having a shank, or you let me do what I gotta do, and something for you as well. You get me transferred out of the library and into the infirmary, and I'll take 9 Train down, and I'll do something that your ass couldn't. I'll take Lono down too." Sergeant Dirts, he's interested, so he's going to get Loop transferred to the infirmary, although not in the way that Loop wanted. Dirts kicks Loop down the stairs, and Loop gets severely injured. Loop's hand got broken. Dirts tells Loop, "You better get down to the infirmary then." 100 Bullets, issue 46. Chill in the Oven, part 4 of 4. Shepard and Lono continue talking. Shepard tells Lono there's a war coming. Lono replies, "And I told you, I'm not interested. But if it gets me out of prison blues, I'll put the black suit and tie back on." Shepard explains, "Nah, Graves doesn't want you. As far as he's concerned, you're a loose cannon and retired. I, on the other hand, don't find you loose at all. We lost a Minuteman, and now Graves wants his spot filled." Lono asks, "You need a replacement for who?" Shepard answers, "Milo Garrett." Milo Garrett died back in issue 36, the Counter-Fifth Detective story arc. Lono was the one that actually killed him, but he did not know it was Milo because Milo had bandages over his face. Lono asks Shepard, "Milo's dead? Man, nobody gave grief to Graves like Milo did. Milo was a migraine, goddamn. The bastard was the only one of the crew I gave 2 shits about. How'd he buy it?" Shepard answers, "He was shot and beaten until he was unrecognizable," which is ironic, seeing how his face was bandaged at the time. Lono then realizes that he was the one that actually killed Milo. Lono's eyes grow big. Shepard tells Lono, "I believe he wanted you to kill him, Lono. He needed you to. Milo, he would fight the sky if he didn't like the shade of blue it was. Did he fight you?" Lono answers, "Just one punch, and if that was Milo, he pulled it." Shepard continues, "He pulled it just enough so you'd pull the trigger, and no ifs, it was Milo. He'd made his decision. So he didn't have a choice." Elsewhere, Loop gets brought up to the infirmary with Eerie and Nine Train. Nine Train is pissed when he sees Loop. Loop, he goes in to see the doctor, and Loop's hand is broken. The doctor asks, "How'd this happen?" Loop answers, "I told you, I fell." The doctor to this says, "Yeah, you and everyone else in here. Every broken, bruise, gash, puncture, and even death, all caused by the same thing. A fall." The doctor patches Loop up and gives him a cast and then sends him into the infirmary to lie down. Meanwhile, back over to Shepard and Lono in their conversation. Shepard tells Lono, "There's a boy in here, Lono. We think he shows potential. He's very raw. He needs some seasoning, but not too much. Keep him rough around the edges. He's independent and assertive, and I want him to stay that way, which is why you're perfect for the job. And that's from me, not from Graves. Graves asked me to handle the both of you, but I don't think this is what he had in mind." Shepard tells Lono that he wants him to train Loop, Little Hughes. Lono is not enthusiastic about training Loop. In fact, he says he'll kill him. Shepard to this says, "You know who he is and you know who we want him to be, so I don't understand your position." Lono replies, "My position? Fuck you and fuck Graves calling the shots. That's my position. Hughes can bleed out the first chance I get." Back to the infirmary. Nine Train stands up and goes over to confront Loop. Loop tries to talk Nine Train down, see if they can come to some sort of peace between them, but Nine Train is not having any of it. He goes to attack Loop, so Loop has no choice but to take the shiv that he secretly hid in his pants, and he stabs Nine Train with it. Nine Train screams out in pain. He falls on the bed where the Nazi Eerie is. Eerie hates Nine Train too, so he starts helping Loop take him down. Eerie is holding Nine Train down while Loop continues stabbing him. Once they are done, Loop yells out to the doctor, "Yo, doctor, you got another guy in here that fell down." Lono's meeting with Shepard has ended, and Lono is being escorted back to the infirmary. When he arrives in the infirmary, Sergeant Dirtz and his guards are attacking Loop and Eerie. Lono decides to join in on the fighting. He fights through some of the guards, and then soon, Sergeant Dirtz and Lono are face to face, one-on-one. Dirtz tells Lono, "Your ass is mine." Lono replies, referring to Loop, "He belongs to me." Lono ends up breaking Dirtz's neck, making him a paraplegic. And in the aftermath of this fighting, both Lono and Loop are thrown into solitary confinement in neighboring cells. Loop, he's kind of happy with the way everything worked out. Nine Train is dead, Dirtz is now a paraplegic, and Lono is locked up away from him. The story arc ends with Lono and Loop exchanging some words. We will pick up again with them in prison in a few story arcs. 100 Bullets, issue 47, Instinct, part 1 of 3. In this issue, we will be checking back in on the Minute Man Jack Daw. The last time we saw Jack was in issue 22, the Selfish and Out to Sea story arc. In that story arc, we learned that Jack was given an attaché by Agent Graves, and the picture of the man that was responsible for ruining Jack's life was Jack himself. Jack was horribly addicted to drugs, and his life was going nowhere, and he was using the 100 bullets in the attaché that Graves gave him to murder other junkies and take their drugs for himself. So what is Jack up to now? When we begin this issue, Jack is in the back seat of a car. His junkie friend Mikey is driving. They are on their way to Atlantic City. As they are driving though, a cop turns on their siren and pulls them over. Mikey is nervous. Their car is filled with all sorts of junk, old roaches and things. This cop might be in trouble for them. They are preparing to maybe use Jack's gun on the cop if they need to. The cop is a man named Sheriff Billy. Billy asks for their license and registration, and if they know it's illegal to make a U-turn. Mikey apologizes for the U-turn and says that he was lost. The cop asks, "Where you headed?" Mikey answers, "Atlantic City, but we was gonna stop by my cousin's place first." The sheriff asks, "Your cousin from around here?" Mikey explains that his cousin is a man named Garvey Metcalf. The sheriff knows Garvey well. He replies, "You mean Jungle Garvey?" Mikey to this says, "Yeah, Jungle Garvey. He runs a zoo." The cop, he lets them off the hook, and he says that he's driving the Jungle Garveys right now, and that they should just follow him. So Mikey and Jack follow the cop in their car, and eventually they arrive at Jungle Garvey's Wild Animal Park. Once they arrive, Sheriff Billy, Mikey, and Jack meet Jungle Garvey. Jungle Garvey is not wearing a shirt, and he's brandishing a shotgun. He says hello to them all. And then eventually, Garvey's side piece, a 19-year-old girl named Wendy, she comes out topless and helps herself to some drinks. All the men are eyeing her. Garvey comments, "She's something else, ain't she? She's 19 years old and she wants the world to notice." Garvey then starts talking business. He says that he's got some people coming in from Philadelphia later, and he wants Sheriff Billy here to know that because the two of them are in business together. Garvey here, he deals in illegal animals, and Sheriff Billy provides him some protection. Garvey says he wants the sheriff here when the deal goes down, but the sheriff says, "Well, fortunately I'm gonna have to be elsewhere, regardless of why they're showing up. One look at my sheriff badge and they're gonna want to put it in their wallet or put a bullet in it, and that ain't gonna happen." So the sheriff heads out. Garvey comments to the others, "Cops, you can always count on them for one thing. First sign of trouble, no sign of them." Garvey's side girl, Wendy, she also heads out. Garvey, he then takes Jack and Mikey on a little tour. He brings them both over to a cage where he has a tiger locked up. Garvey has a box full of meat, and he offers Jack to feed the tiger. As Jack grabs some meat and puts his hand into the cage, Garvey warns him, No, that's not what I meant. These goddamn cats are faster than fucking shit, brother. Your arm will be out of the socket and halfway between your lunch and the litter box before you can even think to let go of that piece of meat. You just take the hunk of meat and put it on the tray, man. It's frickin' pure nature in that cage. Show some respect." As they are talking near the cage, Garvey's wife, Mary Metcalf, walks by. I assume that Mary does not know about Wendy. Mary greets Mikey and also says hello to Jack. When Mary sees Jack, she comments, "Jesus, you're big." Garvey to his wife replies, "He knows." He also tells his wife that the deal with the people from Philadelphia is on. He says, "This is a big deal, Mary. We gotta show them a good time. Drink cocktails and kiss ass and talk shit." Mary says she understands, and she's gonna go get cleaned up and take a shower. Garvey asks if he can join her. So the two of them head inside to go shower up. Well, Mikey and Jack are left outside. Mikey, he goes to retrieve some drugs he stashed here in the past. Meanwhile, Jack is staring at the big tiger. Jack comments, "Man, it's fucking beautiful." You think it's messed up, Mikey? I mean, one day he's swinging the biggest dick in the jungle and everybody's scared of him and he knows it. Hell, he likes it because he ain't scared of nobody. And then he screws up, goes down the wrong path, and he ends up here, in a cage. Mikey, listening, replies, "Maybe. Or maybe he was just born in a frickin' zoo." Jack replies, that'd be even worse." Eventually, Mikey and Jack shoot up some drugs. They enjoy their high for a bit. And then eventually, Mikey and Jack start talking about that gun that Jack has, the one that Agent Graves gave him. Jack thinks about how In a way, Graves was telling Jack to off himself with the gun, because his picture was the one in the attaché. And Jack wonders, what did he do to deserve 100 deaths? Mikey tells Jack, maybe you should just toss the frickin' gun. Jack thinks that's not a bad idea. Jack, with the gun, walks over to the tiger cage, and he tosses the gun inside. And then, Jack, curious, starts taunting the tiger. He sticks his hand inside the cage, and he asks the tiger, "How fast are you? Jungle or zoo?" Mikey warns Jack, it don't matter how fast he is, it's how slow you are. Jack ignores Mikey and focuses on the tiger, and asks the tiger again, "Jungle or zoo?" Mikey warns Jack, "It's your arm, Jack, come on, man." Eventually, though, they get interrupted. The people from Philadelphia here to do business have arrived. As Jack gets distracted, the tiger attacks his arm. 100 Bullets, issue 48. Instinct, part 2 of 3. Jack's arm got clawed by the tiger, and the flesh got ripped off. Jack will live though, and he did manage to get his arm away in the end. The businessmen from Philadelphia, who also seem to be in the mafia, they are here to buy some tiger skins and a tiger head. They see what just happened to Jack, and they ask Garvey, "What the fuck kind of retard operation you running here, Garvey? That kid's got more balls in his head than brains." Garvey, he goes into one of his sheds and comes back with a rifle. The rifle is armed with ketamine darts that will knock the tiger out. Garvey then goes over to the Philadelphia Mafia men and asks if they're ready to do business. These guys are here to buy the skin and the head of the tiger. So first, Garvey has to shoot it with the dart and tranquilize the tiger first. The Mafia guys were hoping that they could shoot the tiger themselves. Garvey warns them, "What, you want a tiger with a shitload of holes in it?" But he'll let them shoot the tiger if they want. They just gotta pay him up front and not complain later. While they are talking business, Jack goes inside the house to talk to Garvey's wife, Mary, the nurse. Mary starts working on Jack's arm, treating it. While she's working on Jack's arm, she tells him some information about their business here. She says, "Yeah, we have a butcher that buys the meat for $3 a pound." Jack asks, "For tiger meat at a butcher shop?" Mary replies, "Oh god, no. Tigers are an endangered species. The butcher sells it as lion." Jack wonders, "Don't folks know the difference?" Mary answers, "There aren't stripes on the meat, Jack." "Sorry to say tiger's worth more dead than alive. We can get upwards of 60 grand for a full skeleton sometimes." Jack asks, "What about what's left? His guts?" Mary answers, "Oh, there's a big market in Asia. They like it for some sort of sex voodoo or something." Eventually, Jack leaves the house and he wanders around the compound. He finds that girl Wendy that was hooking up with Garvey earlier. She seems to live in a trailer nearby. Jack watches her for a bit, and then all of a sudden he hears some gunfire. Back at the tiger, one of the Philadelphia Mafia guys shot the tiger with his rifle. He did not shoot the tiger with a dart though, he shot to try and kill it. He hit the tiger in his belly, but the tiger was still alive, just bleeding out very slowly. The Mafia guy is pissed. This killing of the tiger did not go how he liked. The Mafia guy asks, what should he do now? Garvey answers, well, you shoot her again, and then you stick the barrel through the bars, and when she comes at you, you shoot her right in her frickin' throat. Garvey asks the other two Mafia guys, hey, you two, you want me to dope yours up first now? And the other two Mafia guys say, yeah. Garvey goes back to his shed and grabs some more ketamine darts. Mikey takes this opportunity to talk to his cousin Garvey. He says to him, I thought this was a zoo. You ask me, this is more like cruelty to animals is what it is. Garvey to this answers, what the hell you think a frickin' zoo is? Let me tell you something, Mikey. I get families that come here on vacation. They stop to see my animals. The little kids, they look, but not for long. It's an attention thing. Soon enough, they get bored and they end up running around looking for the next thing to occupy the next 10 seconds of their 3-year-old lives. But these cats, they never take their eyes off of those kids. Their heads go down, their ears go flat, hind feet dig in, and their asses go up because they see prey. Gives me a boner covered with goosebumps every time. The only thing that separates nature from us is these fucking bars. Garvey, he then shoots one of the tigers with the dart. One of the mafia guys asks, "So that's all it takes? A couple minutes?" Garvey says, "Actually, the tiger will be out in a few seconds. He doesn't know where he is right now." Jack, he returns to the tiger cage and he comments, "That ain't true. The tiger knows. He just don't care." As Garvey and the mafia guys are looking at the tiger in the cage, they notice the gun that Jack threw in there earlier. Jack tells them, "The gun's mine." Garvey questions, "You gave a gun to a tiger?" Mikey explains, "Jack just kind of threw the gun in the cage. It wasn't like he was giving it to him." The mafia guys ask Garvey, "Alright, so what's next? How's this gonna work?" Garvey answers, "Alright, well, once the tiger's dead, we'll drag him to the barn. I'm all set up to skin him and cut the head off too." "Did you guys contact that taxidermist I told you about?" The mafia guys say they did. Now that the tiger is passed out, although it's still alive, Garvey opens the cage. He lets the mafia guys go inside and shoot the tiger for the kill shot. Garvey tells them, "Get as close as you have to. He won't bite. Nice shot, clean kill." Before the mafia guys can do that, though, Jack went into the cage, and he grabbed that gun, the one that Graves gave him that he threw to the tiger earlier. And with that gun, Jack shoots at the mafia guys. Jack just can't stand the thought of this tiger dying. The tiger in many ways reminds Jack of himself. So one of the mafia guys is dead. Jack, he starts opening fire on the others. Eventually, Garvey shoots Jack with the ketamine dart, and Jack passes out and falls asleep beside the tiger. 100 Bullets, issue 49, Instinct, part 3 of 3. Garvey begins walking over to Jack. He is going to finish him off. But then, Mikey grabs Jack's gun and warns his cousin, "Don't make me do this, Garvey." Some of the mafia guys grow impatient, and they get ready to fire. So Mikey turns his gun on them and takes them down. In the aftermath, all 3 of the mafia guys are dead. Jack is still passed out, sleeping beside the tiger. Garvey grabs his cousin Mikey and starts shaking him, asking him, "What did you do?" Mikey, he yells back, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill them." Mikey runs off. In the house, Mary Metcalf. She hears all the gunfire going off outside, so she runs to see what is happening. She finds Mikey covered in blood, although the blood is not his. She then continues running, and she eventually finds her husband, Garvey. Garvey explains they're in deep shit. All these mafia guys are dead. There's 3 of them. They're all connected. Garvey gives his wife some money and tells her to go, get out of here, and change your name. Mary says, "I'm not leaving you here." Garvey tells her, "Yes, you are." These guys are going to have their friends from Philly come down looking for them. Mary pleads, "There's got to be something we can do." Garvey replies, "Like what? Tell me how to make 3 made men magically disappear." Eventually, Garvey, his wife, and Mikey try to get to work. They take the mob guy's car and roll it into a garage. They then drag Jack out of the cage so that the tiger doesn't eat him when he wakes up. They then pull out a chainsaw, perhaps theorizing maybe they'll cut up the mob guys and have the tigers eat them. Although it's still not a great plan, as the mob guys probably told their friends they were coming down here. Eventually, the cop, Sheriff Billy, arrives on the scene. When Garvey sees him, he asks, "Bill, man, I thought you were done for the night." Billy answers, "I was, but then I got calls about some gunshots. A lot of gunshots. So I took it. When I drove by, I didn't see those guys from Philadelphia's car, so I came out back. What happened here?" Garvey tells Bill, "You should have been here, partner." Garvey tries to explain the situation on what happened. Bill, angry, says, "Look, I can't have this. I can't let you do this, Garvey. Killing tigers is one thing, but killing 3 made guys?" Garvey replies, "I'm in a real pickle here, Bill." Billy to this says, "Yeah, and I'm a frickin' cop." Garvey rebuttals, yeah, a cop who's facilitated an illegal poaching enterprise going on 5 years. You want to play lawman now? Fine. I'll play state's evidence, sheriff. Billy tells Garvey, your plan's not gonna work. These guys' boys ain't ever gonna believe they never showed up here. That shit won't fly. Garvey asks, well then, do you got something with wings? Billy shoots Mikey in his shoulder and says, alright, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take all these bodies up to the road in your truck, Garvey, and me and Mary will drive their vehicles. And we're gonna make it look like I drove up on them in the middle of a carjacking that went real bad. Like the boys from Philly stopped to help this loser and his big pal. Where is that big guy anyway? Garvey's side girlfriend, Wendy, arrives, and she says, he's out here, referring to Jack. Garvey gets nervous that Wendy's going to reveal to Mary that the two of them have been hooking up. The sheriff goes over and grabs Wendy. He's preparing to choke her to death. But then Jack, now awake, tackles the lawman. And then the book jumps ahead to a day later. It appears that Jack and Mikey have made it out of this situation alive. They are in their car out on the open road. Mikey asks Jack, you feeling alright? Jack answers, a little edgy. You? Mikey says, my arm's pretty numb and my shoulder aches, but I'm not complaining or nothing. Jack, he then goes back to a little trailer they're hauling, and he opens it, and he reveals that the tiger is inside, and the tiger runs off into the wild. Mikey, seeing the tiger run, says, man, that's the craziest thing I ever saw. What if that tiger eats a jagger or something? Jack to this says, a jagger? Who gives a shit? Those assholes always running nowhere. Whatever happens to that cat, and chances are it won't be good, but at least his big dick will be swinging when it does. Mikey then asks Jack, are you sure about getting straight? Jack, he seems like he wants to get off of the drugs. Jack answers, yeah, you sure about staying high? Mikey says, well, after what just went down, probably for the whole next week. I mean, come on man, I'm in a lot of pain here. But not as much as Sheriff Billy that tried to murder me. Garvey blew his frickin' kneecap off. Jack to this says, yeah, but he'll be fine when he's found. A gangland story will tell itself, and then it will all go away. We now see an image of how Garvey, Mary, Jack, and Mikey staged the scene to come up with the story about how these guys from Philadelphia died. They make it look like it was a carjacking gone bad, and one of the mafia guys got shot and killed, and the other mafia guys were just trying to bury the body. And that is when the sheriff stumbled upon them and a gunfight ensued, and the sheriff got shot in the kneecap and he killed the other two mafia guys. Back in the present day, Mikey asks, and what if they look for that one fella's head? Jack answers, well then they'll find it in cat shit, and they'll think the tiger found it in the woods. All our tracks are covered. Nobody's got nothing to worry about. Least of all, the truth. I'm gonna get going, Mikey, but you tell Garvey thanks for the tiger. Mikey replies to Jack, when Garvey finds out you let the tiger go, it's his ass in the fire. But then he knows it would have been a lot hotter for him if you told Mary about Wendy. Well, anyway, Jack, once I kick the drugs, I'll look you up. Jack, he doesn't seem to think Mikey will ever kick the drugs. Jack begins walking off after saying bye to Mikey. Before Jack heads off, though, Mikey asks, hey Jack, all the times you stuck that gun in my face, why'd you never kill me? Jack answers, why'd you still hang with me after the first time I did it? Mikey then asks, so, you're going to Atlantic City. What's so special about it? Jack to this answers, special? Ain't nothing special about a place where nobody wins. Mikey replies, I hear that. There ain't nothing but losers there. And Jack to this is, yep, I'll fit right in. And Jack, he continues walking along the beach to Atlantic City. And with that, we end volume 7 of 100 Bullets. Alright, so that was 100 Bullets, volume 7. Let me go through my thoughts on the story arcs in this one. So first we had the chill in the oven one, which was Loop Hughes in prison. I love me some prison storylines in my comics. I recently covered Daredevil by Ed Brubaker, and in volume 1 of his run, he has Daredevil, Matt Murdock, going to prison. And it was very exciting stuff, so I urge you all to check that out if you are interested. But yes, Loop Hughes in prison. And I love how he's trying to survive, and he has this 9 train guy after him, and one of the guards that hates him. And then there's also Lono, who's still alive, coming into the story, and Lono in the mix there too. So all in all, really exciting stuff. And in the end, 9 train dies. The corrupt guard kind of gets taken out, and Lono and Loop are still locked up together. Although it seems like Lono is going to help shepherd and train Loop, so it will be intriguing to see where that plays out in future volumes. The next story arc, the Instinct one, with Jack Daw, was pretty entertaining. How it kind of goes in a crazy place where they go to this sketchy ass zoo where this guy is selling tiger skin and meat and stuff. But you know what? Pretty exciting with these 3 Philadelphia mob guys coming into the story, and there's some fighting going on. And Jack, he seems to be really obsessed with the tiger because he, in some ways, sees the tiger as himself. So intriguing things there. The only thing I didn't love about that one is how it wrapped up. I felt it was a little clunky. The explanation for how they staged the scene to explain what happened to these Philadelphia mob guys. I don't think it was clearly stated as much as I would have liked. But still, I thought it was a fun story arc. And we have Jack ending that issue where he wants to go clean and he's going to get off the drugs and he's heading off to Atlantic City. So, that's good. We're getting some plot progression on Jack Daw's storyline, and now he can finally sort of join the other Minutemen and perhaps go on from there. So, all in all, an okay volume, I thought. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back in the future with Volume 8.